So I get on this picnic table and I just lay down and close my eyes for a second because I've tried to process what is going on. As I did that, suddenly I'm back at with all my friends from Indiana. We do a golf trip every year, and up until the accident, I hadn't missed ones. Where we played 5 rounds of golf in like 3 days, sometimes six. It's grueling if you're not a golfer, and I try, but I'm not great. So I'm suddenly back there. And I'm talking to my friends, and we're having a good time. And then I say something like, "I'm like, guys, I'm getting really tired." And my best friend, one of my best friends from childhood, Kurt, is like, "Tired? You better wake up because you got a lot of shit going on." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then all of a sudden, someone's asked me if I'm okay again. And I realize it's one of the first responders. And I think the first person there was a deputy. And it seemed like it took forever for um, the ambulance and everything else to get I know it seemed like it took at least 20 minutes. And so the cop's like, "Where did you come from?" And I'm like, I came from that Lexus. He said, "No, you didn't. The person in the Lexus is dead." I'm like, "No, I'm pretty sure I was driving the Lexus." So that was a little weird. And clearly he was pretty stressed out. I mean, he'd already come across one penalty. And I think he just saw my car and assumed that it was it. Um, so, uh, I used to get really upset talking about this. And I don't know, but the brain injury or just the trauma of, surviving the thing and helping other survive. But at least my passenger, I wouldn't say he got through unscathed, but, um, you know, I think he went on to do bigger and better things. So, um, then the ambulance finally came, and I told the cop, I'm like, he really go with that. He's like, "Just pee in the yard." I'm like, "All right." So I went and peed, and the ambulance comes over with the gurney, and they're like, "You want to go to the hospital?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I think I probably should." Since I'm bleeding everywhere, and I think I got a couple of things broken. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go to the hospital." And he's like, "All right, which one?" I'm like, "I don't know the closest one." But I started this point and then I forgot. So in I don't know if it's everywhere, but in Florida, you can decide where you want to go. Now, if I was thinking correctly and I knew this, I should have went to Camp General. They have a trauma center. Um, and that's where I should have went. But I went to the regional hospital, which was a mistake. But the hindsight is 2020, as they say. So I went to regional hospital, and they got the gurney. They're like, "It's gonna be a rough walk, a rough ride on the gurney. Can you walk to the ambulance?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can walk." So I kind of limped to the ambulance, and I'm seeing the scene of it's like 2:30 in the morning. There's fire everywhere. There's pieces of debris, like pieces of his truck, pieces of my car, just everywhere. And this guy must have had his flatbed loaded with just bunch of junk because he could have made a more realistic, emotional, impactful movie set than, everything on fire, smoke everywhere, pieces of car everywhere. Um, so I'm like, wow, this was a big accident. And, you know, a- during the trial, the one of the lawyers for defense was like, you smiling at the accident scene. Why were you smiling? And I'm thinking, well, and you really thought, like I was funny. I am funny. I scared the shit out of you. One of the pros or benefits that I have is when I am super stressed, I smile. I usually always have a smile on my face, but I told him, I'm like, man, I just survived a 60-mile-an-hour head-on collision where both of us were going pretty damn fast. I'm like, I was just happy to be alive, which was not untrue. Um, but that got a black out the jury. But so I remember just looking at the scene, just in amazement about what was going on. Get to the hospital. So we're in the ambulance. They're like, wow, your pulse and blood pressure are pretty steady. We don't really see this. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Are you in any pain? I'm like, yeah, my my left side is killing me. Like, oh, we look that if we're gonna do something for that, you won't feel bad in a little bit. I'm like, all right, whatever. He goes, but all in all, you're not in horrible shape. Um, so we're talking in the ambulance, and um, we get to the hospital, and it's COVID. So I'm wearing a neck brace because that's very important. I understand that, but the neck brace fucking hurts. It's digging into where my burn is, and it's also just tight. They want your neck to be not mobile in case it's like hanging on by a thread or something, I guess. Um, it turns out my neck was fractured, so uh, but it was fractured, but I didn't need to wear a brace. If that makes any sense. So I get to the hospital. They're making me wear a mask, which annoys me because I'm having a hard time breathing anyway. Turns out I have a broken rib, so it made breathing difficult. Um, I'm afraid for whatever reason I was convinced that I had rushed my spleen or I had really dramatically injured a kidney. Those were the two things I was most afraid of. Um, and then the first 2 or 3 hours of the hospital, I have very little memory of. I know they did X-rays. I don't know if they went and got me. It was not the most modern hospital in the world. So again, I should go back to a different place. But nonetheless, that's the hospital I went to. So we're assessing, it's like 5 a.m. I'm exhausted. I'm trying to get some rest. And I'm walking around because I don't want to get stiff. They're like, you gotta stay in bed, you gotta keep your mask on. I'm like, well, I'm in a room by myself. Why do I need my mask? I'm like, hospital, it's COVID. I'm like, all right, whatever. So, but it hurts to be in bed. To lay flat hurts. I have a fucking broken rib. It hurts to be flat. And they won't do the gurney right. So I'm sitting in a chair. It just felt better to be in a chair. So they were getting annoyed at me because there was no chair in my room. So I would go out and sit in the chair in front of my room. And I'd be like, hey, where's everybody at? Like, oh, you're the Uber guy. You know, everyone knew about the Uber guy coming in because he survived this crash. Um, I'm like, yeah, I'm the Uber guy. And then the police come, and it was a very nice state trooper. He's like, hey, I'm trooper, whatever his name is. He goes, I'm doing the accident scene investigation. Like, okay. And he's like, I need to know if you'll consent to a blood test. And I kind of knew, I had a feeling that it was a fatality accident. I'm like, oh, is this a fatality accident investigation? He said, yes, unfortunately it is. Oh. So, see, even still, it gets just a little upset. I mean, it happened 5 years ago. I do not know why this still gets me this way. It's insane. But anyway, I'll compose myself very second. Sorry about that. Every once in a while, I don't like to think about it. So every once in a while, especially during the depositions and during the legal part, because it's still going on, even though it's been almost 5 years. Um, I get a little upset uh, when I think about the accident and the after. So it's a little crazy. But anyway, um, so the trooper comes in. He's like, will you consent to a blood test? I'm like, well, what if I say no? He's like, well, honestly, he goes, my understanding when we're driving through the, he said, this is only going to protect you to prove that, you didn't have anything in your system and you weren't drunk and I didn't have it in my system. Yeah, I wasn't. So I wasn't impaired anyway. He's like, so actually, it actually benefits you as well as helps us because we get a better understanding of what's going on. And I'm like, but if I say no, are you going to get a court order anyway? He goes, it depends on, my report. It has a lot to do with, do we think you're impaired? He said, I don't think you're impaired. I'm not saying I'm not going to get a court order, but I'm saying it's up to you. And I'm like, like, well, go ahead and do it. And so he goes and gets a nurse, and the nurse comes in, is talking to me, and she's like, I'm not comfortable with you drawing his blood. He's in no condition to make that decision. He probably has a concussion. I'm sure he has a concussion. Um, and he can't make that decision. And the trooper's like I talked to him. He decided. I'm like, no, I want the blood test. So we had to get a supervisor and all this stuff. And I appreciate the nurse kind of protecting me in a way, but it's my decision. And especially since I had nothing to hide, I wanted that blood test. So we're doing the blood test. Nurse is frustrated. He has to use a special test from his heart. He goes out and gets the test, and she's trying to find a vein. I have great veins. Why this poor nurse couldn't find my vein? I have no idea. I might have been a little dehydrated. I don't know. But so she's searching for a vein, and she's like, I missed your vein. I'm gonna have to use a different needle, a new needle. I'm like, well, now he just told you that the blood test doesn't have the cleaning mechanism doesn't have alcohol in it, so it doesn't affect the test results. So you can't just go get a new needle. He has to go get a whole new kit. And the trooper's like, oh yeah, he's right. I got to get a new kit. We get a new kit. So that took like an hour to get the blood drawn. Um, but we finally got it done, and it did come back negative, as I knew it would. Um, so now all the tests are going. They come back. They assess my injuries. Because again, I think my spleen is those, or I think I've injured a kidney. They're like, no, you might have bruised your kidney and might have bruised because she says there's nothing wrong with your spleen. I'm like, all right, because we're gonna get some stitches for your head. We're gonna put some stitches in your hand, and I'm doing various tests as this is going on, and I'm like, well, now for my finger, I'm like, there's still glass in there. They're like, no, it's not. We're very thorough. We took all the glass out. I'm like, no, there's still glass in there. I feel it. No, you don't. You look, your finger, that glass really did a number on the skin. You're feeling some skin. There's some tissue that, you got to cut down to the bone. I'm surprised you can feel anything because your nerves are gone. I'm like, well, there's glass in there. I can almost see it. Like there's not. Like, all right, can we do an X-ray? He's like, well, X-rays won't show up. Glass won't show up on X-rays. And I know a little bit about X-rays because I sell bone. I used to sell bone. I'm like, "No, actually, it will show up on the X-ray. It will look cloudy, and that will tell you need to take it off." She said, I'm not doing an X-ray. You don't have glass in your hand." And she sent in some intern to stitch my hand up. I was so annoyed. Um, so that didn't go as well as I would have hoped. And I knew there was glass in my finger. And 18 months later, I hit my head and had to get stitches. And I tell the doctor, "Hey, can you just look at my finger because I think there's glass in it." She's like, "Oh yeah, there's a big piece of glass in it." So annoyed. 18 months. I had glass in my hand for 18 months. But whatever. I I'm surprised it didn't work its way out, but it was a pretty big piece of glass, like the size of like a small tooth. Um, so they stitched me up. Now it's like 8:30, and she comes into the room. She's like, "All right, I think we're ready to discharge you." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, yeah, there's really nothing. We're not gonna admit you. There's really nothing we can do. You'll be more comfortable at home." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not sure. I was just shocked. I really thought that I was spending the night or spending the day. So I I'm like, well, so I thought very slowly because I'm not thinking very quickly. And I'm like, well, I don't have anybody that will come pick me up. She's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, I live in Nellis County. I live in the East Lake. I'm there. I like an hour away. It's pretty early morning. No one's going to answer the phone. My mom, I'm not going to really tell her about the accident. And, you know, today was the 18th, was my sister's birthday. She died like a year ago or 2 years ago from the accident crying. So I knew it was going to be a tough day for her. I didn't want to put that burden on her. Plus, she was like at the time approaching 80. I didn't want her on the highways. My son was living at home. I knew he wouldn't be up, probably wouldn't answer the phone. But the point is, I really didn't want to leave. My daughter was in Brazil, which is a total another story, but he went there to live for a year. Um, and my ex-wife can't drive, so she doesn't have a driver's. So I said, "Well, there's no one that can pick me up." Like, "Well, you can't stay here." Like, "I don't know, I'll tell you." I'm like, "Well, I can't be discharged without having a way home, so I'll try later." I think I pretended to call my son. I'm like, "No, he didn't pick up." So he like comes back in the room like a half hour later. "Were you able to get home with me, mate?" "No." He goes, "Well, we're just gonna call you a lift," which I thought was very ironic that the Uber driver, the guy in the head-on collision, is taking a lift home. And I just broke down. She's like, "What's wrong?" And I was afraid to leave the hospital. I really thought that if I think I thought if I went to sleep, I would not wake up. Because, I had heard about people with concussions and bad accident injuries, um, going to sleep when they shouldn't. And that was just in my mind. So I really thought that if I went to sleep or left the hospital for that matter, I was done. And like, "Hey, it's okay." I am like, "No, scared to go home." It's like, "No, you're fine. We checked you out thoroughly." Even then, I was thinking, "Yeah, yeah, you guys checked me out thoroughly. Does not give me a great deal of um safety here." But I thought, well, at least if something goes wrong, I can go to my hospital that's close to my house and get the care they want. But so we got through that. I called some of my friends, let them know I'd been this horrible car accident. I called my son, let him know. It was so late at night. I didn't want to. There was no reason to call anybody right away because I was fine and there's nothing they do. Um, so I got home and I'm like, it's very hard to move. I'm moving like a mummy almost because I'm so swollen. I mean, my whole body is swollen. I'm black and blue. I've got burn. Now I'm not wearing a neck brace anymore, but, it just it's I I felt myself being sick, but I was, like, super, super tired. I mean, I had been out for almost 24 hours. So I got home, said hello to everybody, um, didn't call my mom yet. She wasn't living at home. She was living in, a condo about 10 minutes away. So, I went to bed about by the time I got home, it was almost noon, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm gonna go get some rest. I need to lay down." So I took the dog out, kinda managed that, and then went in my bedroom, and I remember telling everybody I loved them and everything because I really thought there was a chance I wasn't gonna wake up, which is an odd feeling, but a weird feeling, and probably just a paranoid feeling, but I just could not shake that feeling. So I could not shake that feeling. So I went to bed. I knew I was tired. And I think other than getting up to go to the bathroom once or twice, which I don't really remember, I woke up at like 7 a.m. the next day. So I had slept for like 18 straight hours. That kind of gives you an idea of of what my body went through. Started the new day on a Sunday and kind of then began to try and think about what I needed to do. So that's what happened for the first 24 hours after the accident. Uh, Basically, fought, tried to stay in the hospital. A piece of glass stayed in my hand and found out I had a broken rib. I had injured my wrist. I had a double meniscus tear. I had a hairline fracture of my neck. She's like, be sure to follow up with the orthopedic surgeon. It's not something you don't want to ignore, but it's not like life threatening. You just won't need to wear a brace. I was thinking I was going to be in like a little halo thing. So it was a, a good outcome of a bad situation, I guess is the best way to describe it. I hope you enjoyed kind of the story and, you know, if you're in a car accident, a couple things. Remember, or any type of emergency situation where you're not near your house, you can go to whatever hospital you want to go to. And if you know the area, then you make sure you go to a good hospital. If you're from the area, you know what hospital you want to go to. It's no fun being in a car accident, but after I made it. I don't know if this series is providing an entertainment value or any type of value. In the next couple of days, I'll next couple videos, we'll be talking about the brain injury and the effects of that, how I eventually overcame that. So if you do have a brain injury, you might want to think, or you know someone, a loved one that does have a brain injury, you might want to tune in for that. I'm going to check the stats on day 15, 30, 45, and 60. It's hard not to look at the stats because as I load new videos, I know it kind of gives you a count on the dashboard. I'm going to try not to look at that. I think I have a pretty good power concentration. I can ignore that because I really want to reveal what's going on at day 15 with you guys to see, how many views, if I have any followers. I'm not sure I'm going to have any followers. I think by probably number 61, I'll have some followers because hopefully I'm going to be doing these that are going to be getting better. I think the first one was pretty good. Won't make a lot of sense to you if you don't have some of the background of this, but nonetheless, First one's in, and the second one is going to be posted here on August 2nd, and we'll go from there. So, I see you again. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.